Welcome to Website Design Made Simple, the podcast for busy small business owners who want a high-performing website that converts and sells their offers, even while they're sleeping. Because you deserve to have a strategic and beautiful website that truly represents your brand and positions you as the expert that you are. I'm your host, Jenny B., web designer and creative director at Jenny B Designs, where we believe that your website is the one thing that makes you sales and builds your brand at the same time. Ready to say goodbye to a website that you're embarrassed to share? And hello to a money-making, personality-packed powerhouse? Let's head into today's episode. Are you tired of losing potential clients because they can't find the answers they need on your website? Today, I want to talk about the secrets to creating an effective FAQ page that will not only keep your visitors engaged, but really also boost your business's online presence. Today, you will learn why having an FAQ page is super important for your website, how to identify the right questions to include on that page, some tips for writing clear, concise, and informative answers, strategies for designing your FAQ page that help, and ways to really promote it and attract more visitors to your website. So let's jump right into the episode. Before I get to that, in case we haven't met, my name is Jenny B. I own Jenny B Designs, and we are a brand and web design studio. And my favorite thing to do is help other small business owners shine online. That is what I live to do. And that includes helping small business owners design custom websites using WordPress, or also if they have a DIY website and they need an extra set of eyes, I offer a website audit just to get you kind of in touch with what you can do yourself to make it a little bit more powerful and work for you around the clock 24/7. So with that introduction, let's get into the episode. So you probably have heard of an FAQ page, but let's just take a second to really define what they are. FAQ stands for frequently asked questions. And this FAQ page is that dedicated space on your website where you really address those common questions and the concerns that your visitors might have. It's essentially that one place for all the information your audience, your visitors need to know about your services or your products or your business in general. And if you're asking, do I really need an FAQ page on my website? The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, I would probably say it's one of the most important pages on your website if it is done right. And I'll tell you what, by addressing those common questions and concerns up front, you can reduce the amount of time that it takes to answer your potential clients' questions. And what I mean by that is, let's say that your sales process is someone visits your website and then they schedule a consultation call to have a chat with you and to get to see if they are the right fit for you and you're the right fit for them. When you have an FAQ page, it really does save you time on that call because most likely you're answering a lot of questions that they would have and they would be asking you on that call. So when they get on that call, they're much better equipped with the information they need, and in turn, it's a less lengthy of a call. And most likely it's more of that vibe fit versus trying to get the nitty-gritty details to see if you are the appropriate service provider to solve their potential problem. Same thing goes if you have a product or a service that you just sell online. Most likely, when you have an FAQ, people can get their questions answered and they can be more confident with saying yes to purchase the membership or to purchase your course or whatever you have that you're selling online. So it's really an important piece of the puzzle, and it saves you a lot of time and resources. The second thing that it does is it definitely improves your user's experience when someone's on your website. When they get onto your website and the visitor can find the answers that they need, they're more likely to stay on your website and engage longer with your content. And of course, this can lead to increased conversions and more sales, and then just more customer loyalty and that general brand awareness. And finally, that FAQ page, it can boost your website's search engine optimization, your SEO. This is done by including relevant keywords and phrases in your FAQ content, as well as making sure that you include some behind-the-scenes markup. And this can increase your SEO and drive more organic traffic to your website. Now that we understand the importance of having an FAQ page on your website, let's actually just talk about how you actually create one. The first thing that you're going to want to do is identify the most common questions asked by your customers and figuring out what they want to know. And there are a few ways you can go about doing this. The first one that I tend to do is review my customer inquiries, those contact form submissions when someone reaches out to me to get in touch right away, as well as thinking back over your consultation calls. Thinking through, if you have a consultation call with a potential client, what questions are they asking, or what questions are people asking over and over and over? Occasionally, I like to record a consultation call that I have, and of course, I ask my potential client. But it really helps me kind of get in the mindset and look at the whole process and see what are they asking, and then how am I sharing about the support that I can offer these potential clients and what can be improved on my side. But by doing so, you can really get a sense of what people are asking over and over. And another way that you can find questions is social media. Are people asking questions typically on social media under your posts? Or could you put out a post perhaps on LinkedIn asking people what they might be wondering when it comes to your industry or the service that you provide? And then making that list of these common questions, this really becomes the backbone of your FAQ page. The second thing you could do is really look at your website analytics and see which pages your visitors frequently go to. It really can help you get valuable insights as to kind of what people are most interested in. And if you notice that certain pages are getting a lot of traffic, that might mean that people are really looking for more information about that topic. And perhaps you can use that topic to inform other questions on your FAQ pages. Another way to get commonly asked questions is to just do a little bit of Google research. And you can type into that Google search box. And when you ask a simple question and then you hit enter and then you get the answers, you can see below there, people also ask. And there are questions below that share questions people commonly ask as it pertains to that topic. And if you click into those, you'll notice that the list keeps growing and get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's a great way to find out more information about what people are actually wondering when it comes to website design. Another way you could find questions is Answer the Public. That's a great place to kind of see, if you put a topic, the general questions that people are asking, and you can generate some ideas from there. And my final option for you is to ask an AI. If you use ChatGPT or if you use like a Claude as I do or any of the other AIs, ask some questions. Ask them what people typically wonder about when it comes to your industry or your service. And that can start to generate some ideas. And group these all on a page, look at them, see what makes sense, pick, the top 8, the top 10, and go with those. Once you've identified those most common questions, then we want to put it into categories. And it depends on how many questions you want to go with. And if you have a lot, then categories are great. If you don't have a lot, then maybe just a simple 8 to 10 FAQ page is fine for you. It really depends on your industry, your topic, and if you need to categorize them. I think a great business to categorize things is a product business. For example, if you sell products, you could categorize them into general product questions, to shipping and delivery questions, to payment and refund questions, and then, of course, the technical support questions. Those are all kind of buckets they go into. For myself, for web design, I probably would just have a simple list of potential questions because it's more general. I just have a singular service. But think about your business and if it makes sense to actually have those buckets. The next thing you want to do is write really clear, concise, and informative answers. And you want to make it simple. I say this all the time, clear over clever. Use simple language, avoid jargon. Your FAQ page is really meant for your potential client. It's really not to showcase your industry expertise. It's to speak to your potential client in a way that they can understand and relate to. So definitely avoid that technical jargon. Any acronyms, if you use acronyms, be sure to make sure that you write those out and take away anything that may be confusing to some visitors. AI is a great use for this. If you write something, pop it in AI and see if there's a way that they could simplify it or make it more easy to understand. The second thing you can do is provide step-by-step instructions when necessary. And what I mean by this is if a question relies on multi-step answers, break it down in easy to follow instructions. You can use an A or a B or a numbered list or bullet points. Just make that FAQ information on that specific question really scannable and easy to digest. And this applies to both your FAQ and the rest of your website. I say this all the time, make it easy to scan. People are busy, they don't read every word. So carry this through to your FAQ section. And then you're going to want to include links to relevant resources or pages on your website. Anything that may be helpful to that reader to share more information with your answers. It not only provides added value, but it keeps your visitors engaged with your website even longer. So those are the three things you're going to want to keep in mind as you write that FAQ section. Now let's talk a little bit about the design for that FAQ section. You want to definitely organize it for easy navigation. I like to use expandable sections that, accordion style layout. You probably have seen it. You'll see the questions, you hit the plus sign, and then the answer drops down. I think that's really important. If you have a lot of questions on the page, then perhaps you can incorporate a search function. This is, like I said, more for those businesses who do have a lot of categories and do have a lot of questions. That could be something that's really helpful to have a search bar so that people can quickly access information that they really need. You want to make sure that the design matches your branding through the rest of your website so that you're using consistent fonts, consistent colors. If you do have any brand icons, that you are taking those through to the FAQ section so that someone gets on that page, they do understand that they are still in the same place as the rest of the website. You can carry that consistent look and feel throughout that FAQ page. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you are regularly reviewing and updating the content, that FAQ content, based on new customer inquiries that you have coming in, or new consultation calls, or new questions people are asking, and remove those outdated or irrelevant questions. For example, for me, at one time, my website design process took about 3 weeks, and I had that in my FAQs. And now the timeline is closer to 4 weeks, so I made sure to go and update that. Definitely review that FAQ section occasionally when you're doing an audit of the rest of your website to make sure that it is up to date and it has relevant information on there. Another thing that you can do is include visuals in that FAQ section. I've actually seen a couple of FAQs recently where there were video as an answer to some of the questions. And I love this. I love video a lot. It's just, there's nothing like it. To be able to see and hear someone, and it just builds that know, like, and trust factor. So perhaps you have a more general question that people typically ask. Consider using video, embedding video in the answer for that question. Or consider using imagery in one of the answers. Perhaps it's a visual representation of the answer to their question along with the words that would answer their question. You could also incorporate customer feedback, client feedback, and testimonials to build that trust in that FAQ section. Definitely do whatever you need to do to make that a little bit more interactive and entertaining and have a little bit of fun with it. You want to answer people's questions, but you also want to give a little bit of your brand personality and keep them reading and on that page. Now, I want to briefly touch on how your FAQ page can really help with SEO. And there are a bunch of different ways that it can. The first one is keywords. By addressing the common questions that relate to your services or your product or your industry, you are naturally incorporating relevant keywords into your FAQ content. This definitely helps those search engines understand the context of your page and your website, and it can improve your rankings for those specific keywords. Now, if you do any SEO research and you have any long tail keywords, meaning, a few words strung together, this FAQ page is definitely a place where there is more specific questions than, those less competitive broad keywords. So by answering these specific questions, you can attract that traffic and improve your SEO based on these long-tailed keywords. And of course, that relevance, keeping your content relevant to those search engines. Search engines love the websites that provide valuable, relatable, or relevant, informative content. And that FAQ page, it just helps improve that overall relevance of your website. My FAQ page has the words website design and website project and branding in a lot of the questions. And that just tells Google and all the search engines that that is in fact what I do. And it helps to boost my SEO efforts. And of course, when you have a really good FAQ page, it helps improve user engagement. It means that your visitors can find answers to their questions quickly. They will stay on your website longer, and they will not bounce, which means that they won't go to your website and then leave quickly, which is a negative view to Google when someone does this. So when they stay on your website longer, these are important signals, and they indicate the quality and relevance of your content. And of course, it helps boost your SEO. Another thing that it does is, I mentioned earlier before, having those internal links. This is such a great way to include those internal links. A lot of times we think of just internally linking on our blog posts, where we write a blog and then we link to another blog that we wrote, or we link to our services page, or anything that might relate to that. Well, on the FAQ page, there are probably a lot of questions that pertain to blog posts that you wrote or other main pages on your website that you can link to. And that helps kind of weave together everything in Google's eyes, as well as keep people on your website longer. And finally, this is kind of a little bit on the back end, but when you use an FAQ section, you can use a structured data markup, such as schema, on your FAQ page. And what this does is it just tells search engines that your FAQs are written with a question and an answer, and it can make your search result more visually appealing and increase those click-through rates and drive more targeted traffic to your website. So let me kind of break this down for you. I use Elementor. And Elementor, when you pull over an accordion widget, an accordion widget is what I talked about before. You have your question up at the top, and then when you hit a plus sign or whatever icon you want, the answer drops down. When you pull over the accordion widget to the page that you're working on, if you look on the left and you kind of look down in the widget information at the bottom, there is a toggle that says FAQ schema. And it actually defaults as no, which I don't know why it does. But what you want it to do is put yes. And when you do that, in the back end, there's a little piece of code that shares with Google that this is, in fact, an FAQ, and that it should be listed in that FAQ section when someone Googles your question. And of course, it takes time to actually appear there and show up in the search, but just by having the right information on the back of your website to tell Google what it is, it really does help increase your chances. For Squarespace, I believe that there is a code that you could pop in there. I'm not as familiar, and you can add it to your FAQ section. You can Google that probably on Squarespace, and I'm sure that the other builders have something similar. But if you can, including that little piece of code on the back end, it just really helps clarify with Google what that page is and what you want it to do. And by doing that, you're really leveraging this FAQ page to reap the SEO benefits. And it's just really a great way to drive more organic traffic to your website. And the final thing I want to chat about is, now that you've understand the importance of an FAQ page, you have created one, you've designed one, and you've helped it optimize for search engines. The last thing I want you to do is share it out, because you spent all this time creating this FAQ page, and I want you to make it more engaging for your audience and drive traffic to it. And once you've put the time and effort into building it, there are a bunch of things you could do. The first thing you could do is actually just write a blog post for each of the questions that really dives deeper into the topic that you covered in your FAQ. And what you can do is you can link back to the relevant FAQ answers and encourage people to explore the page for more information. So you're linking back and forth between your blog and the FAQ. You could also do an FAQ-themed email series. Perhaps if you have an email newsletter, you can include an FAQ a week or however often you email your list. And at the bottom, you could share this information out with your audience. Use that as the content for your email marketing. You can definitely use it on social media. You can make posts about each question. You could also do stories on Instagram and share that content out. You could also do polls on LinkedIn and ask people, if you have a question, you could ask people what they think the answer is, and then you could share what the actual answer is and link to that FAQ page. And finally, you could, if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, you can use those topics as episodes and discuss either one for each FAQ or just make an FAQ themed episode about the frequently asked questions, which I actually might do. It's a great idea, and I might put that on my list of things to do. But then you can encourage anyone who's listening to your podcast to go visit your FAQ page for more information on the topics. By doing this, you're trying to drive people back to your website, back to the FAQ page, so that it can do all the things that we built your website to do. Inform people, build your credibility, build that know, like, and trust factor, and then eventually, when they're ready to work with someone, they're going to see you, they're going to know that you can solve the problem that they have, and then they're going to get in touch with you and get into your sales process. So that is what I have to share about an FAQ page. It's definitely something that you want on your site. You're going to want to. So that's what I have to share about an FAQ page. I think it's a great add-on if you don't have one already. And what I'm going to say is, let's talk about your navigation for a quick second. You know that I like to keep the top nav really clean and simple. If you have a FAQ page dedicated to simply questions and answers, you're going to want to link to that in the footer, and you're going to want to link to that on your services page. When someone is really getting into the nitty-gritty details of what you have to offer and they're starting to ask the questions, but you want to refrain from adding it to your top navigation because someone doesn't land on your website and immediately go to the FAQs. Got to kind of warm them up and take them on the journey to when they start asking those questions. So add that FAQ navigation to your footer and on your services page and on any other page that they really might be warmed up and ready to actually ask the questions. Today we learned about why an FAQ page is so important. You need to do this on your website. And if you don't have one, that's great. Then take some time and put one together. And then once you do, you'll be able to repurpose it into doing so many other things for you and working for you harder and drawing people into your website and attracting more ideal clients and making more money with your website. If you have an FAQ page on your website, I would love to see it. I love seeing fun, cool FAQ pages. If you're doing anything interesting like video or imagery, or you've incorporated any other fun components, please send me an email. I'd love to see it, check it out. And if you don't have an FAQ page on your website and you need help creating one, I would definitely love to help. Reach out and we can go from there. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. And that wraps up another episode of Website Design Made Simple. I hope you found the insights shared in this episode valuable and takes you one step closer to creating a website that attracts more of your ideal clients and builds your brand. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Your review will help us reach more small business owners like you who are ready to make more money with their website. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.